ZOWIE and BAM! Hello, YouTube viewers and Transformers fans of all ages. This is the TFN Geek coming to you with my next Transformers figure spotlight video. And today we are going to be taking a look at the ZOWIE Boom Bam and Tastic Autobot Warpath. Introduced in 1985, Warpath quickly became one of the most well-known of the Season 2 Minibot Transformers characters due to the fact that he would speak with outbursts, and the fact that he was the first Autobot who was had a tank for his alt mode. And yeah, Warpath remains a special character among most Transformers fans. And surprisingly, with other Transformers characters such as Megatron having tanks for alt modes, and most of the Transformers characters in recent years who have had tanks for alt modes have been Decepticons. The idea of an Autobot transforming into a tank, it hasn't really been marketed that well, and so Transformers characters in the past who have turned into tanks for their vehicle mode, such as Warpath, they've haven't had much toys of them released as a result of this. But the toys of Warpath that do exist are pretty great. Some aren't as great as what Transformers fans would have expected, but to be honest, the handful of toys of Warpath that do exist, I recommend getting all of them. So going left to right, we have the Transformers toys of Warpath in the order in which I purchased them. The one all the way on the left might look the most different to everyone, and looking at this toy, you might not think, that's not Warpath. It doesn't look like Warpath at all. This is actually the movieverse version of Warpath. It was released exclusively at Target stores in 2008. And it is a straight-up repaint of one of the toys from the Transformers Cybertron toy line, a repaint of the character Overhaul. And like most Transformers characters who were given a toy in the first live-action movie toy line, just to use the name so Hasbro could use a registered trademark for it, the movieverse version of Warpath, it is one of those toys where it has the name of a well-known Transformers character, but it doesn't look a thing like the character. So it's the movieverse version of Warpath suffers what I like to call trademark name syndrome. And basically, just to maintain a registered trademark on a certain character's name, Hasbro used the opportunity to try and save the registered trademark from expiring by applying it to a toy that necessarily didn't look like a Transformers character at all. But despite being a straight-up repaint of Cybertron Overhaul, the movieverse version of Warpath, it has held up pretty well. Now, what has been for many Transformers fans the quintessential toy of Warpath to have in their collection was the next toy of Warpath released, which was the Generations Deluxe Class Warpath. And let's see, who has joined the chat here? Let me see. Transformers for Life 801. Well, welcome to the live chat. Now, as I was saying, most Transformers fans, for them, the quintessential toy of Warpath, the must-have Warpath toy to have in their collection is the Generations Deluxe Class toy of Warpath, and I tend to agree. Now, if you look down there at Warpath's shins, the parts that are painted silver, when Warpath was released in 2011, Hasbro pushed the idea of a interchangeable weapons system amongst all the Transformers toys being released in different lines, and what the interchangeable weapons utilized was 3mm C-joint clip-on weapons, and so Warpath has 4 of the 3mm C-joint bars that the clip-on weapons would attach to, 2 on his shins, and hopefully you can see it right there, but he has 2 on his arms as well. And basically in tank mode, if you have up to 4 weapons that you have the 3mm C-joint clips, you can attach them to Warpath and armor him up even more. And one thing I've always liked about the Generations Deluxe Class Warpath toy, hopefully that's appearing up for you, but Hasbro decided to print on Warpath's legs, Kapow, written out as K4-90W on one leg, and ZOWIE, printed out as Z0W-333 on his other leg. So those were 2 of the outbursts that Warpath would say often in the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon. Now, one thing I want to show one last thing I want to say about the Generations Warpath, and hopefully it shows up for you on camera. I don't know if it will with this light I have, but one thing that a lot of Transformers fans and tend to disbelieve is that Warpath doesn't actually have any light piping in his eyes, and sorry about that. That light I brought out isn't working on it, but most Transformers fans incorrectly believe that the Generations Deluxe class toy of Warpath doesn't have any light piping. I can say after shining lights on the back of his head in the past, Warpath does have light piping. The problem with Warpath is that the plastic used for his light piping is black plastic, so if you can get a bright enough light to shine on the back of it, Warpath actually has charcoal gray eyes that glow. So yeah, that's very interesting that Warpath is one of the only Transformers toys I know of that uses black plastic for light piping, and when you actually shine a light on the back of it, it actually gives him gray eyes. So I don't know if anyone else has ever noticed that out. Transformers for Life. I've just said we don't usually talk about the clip-on weapons anymore. Yeah, and I can kind of see why. The last toy line that used the clip-on weapons was the Dark of the Moon toy line in 2011, and what basically Hasbro decided to replace the C-joint clip-on weapons starting in 2012 with the Transformers Prime toy line by, instead of 3mm C-joint clip-on weapons, the interchangeable weapons system seen on Transformers toys was 5mm peg weapons such as the 5mm peg holes in most Transformers fist hands. And so it made interchangeable weapons easier between Transformers toys, but unfortunately the result was that more Transformers toys had 5mm peg holes on the surface of them, but Transformers fans have tend to kind of go along with that interchangeable weapon system, since that's the size of the hands of most Transformers toys going all the way back to the Generation 1 toy line in 1984. So moving right along, we have what I like to consider the most disappointing toy of Warpath, the Combiner Wars Legends class version of Warpath. Now this version of Warpath, it is a repaint with the only molded difference being a new head sculpt of the Transformers Generations Thrilling 30 Legends class toy of IDW Megatron that was released in 2013, and a lot of Transformers fans were disappointed that rather than designing a new toy for Warpath, Hasbro decided that repainting Megatron and giving the toy a G1 Warpath head sculpt would be enough of a toy that Transformers fans would buy and collect it up. Now, for a lot of Transformers fans, the Generations Warpath toy, despite being a decent-sized deluxe, since Warpath in the Generation 1 toy line was a mini-bot, a lot of Transformers fans tend to consider Legends class to be a proper size class for Warpath, and the Combiner Wars version of Warpath, it's unfortunately slightly smaller than some of the Legends class toys that Hasbro released in the Titans Return and Power of the Primes toy line. Combiner Wars Warpath is shorter in robot mode than Power of the Primes Beachcomber and Titans Return Sea Spray. In fact, I think Warpath is even shorter than Combiner Wars Power Glide, so I think Warpath might be the shortest of all the Generations updated versions of the 1985 Season 2 mini-bots. And it's because as Combiner Wars Warpath, for me personally, he ended up being kind of lackluster. This guy's cons are the reason why I got this toy over here. Now, this toy of Warpath, some of you probably haven't seen it before, and that's because this is not an official Hasbro or Takara Tomy release. This is actually a third-party toy of Warpath, and it is none other than Iron Factory's Burning Slug. And I believe it was released for the first time last year, so here's the box. I still have it. So yeah, this was released by Iron Factory. It's their 28th toy, and I've said it in some of my videos in the past, but the only third-party Transformers toys that I have bought and added to my Transformers collection are the ones that are the absolute must-haves. And in the past, Iron Factory, they've been kind of one of the iffy third-party Transformers toys, companies, but to be honest, Iron Factory's a Burning Slug, aka not Warpath, This is the Legends Class Warpath toy that I wanted when Hasbro released the Combiner Wars Warpath in 2015, and that noise you just heard was the instruction sheet for Warpath falling out. I still have it in its package. I managed to figure out how to transform Iron Factory's version of Warpath by watching other reviews here on YouTube. But yeah, everything that prevents the Combiner Wars Warpath from looking like an updated version of Generation 1 Warpath, Iron Factory managed to answer the call. Now, in the most recent toy line released by Hasbro, Transformers War for Cybertron Siege, the Legends Size Class Transformers toys, they've been replaced with the Micromaster 2-pack, so unfortunately, an official toy of Warpath being released by Hasbro here in the United States, unfortunately, it's not going to happen anytime in the near future, so the Iron Factory's version of Warpath, for those of you who want it to replace your Combiner Wars Warpath, it has an average retail price tag of $30, and I got Warpath for, I think, $35 from Amazon. That might seem a lot for the size class of toy, but considering the aftermarket prices that the Generations Deluxe Class Warpath is going for, and even Combiner Wars Warpath, to be honest, I personally have no regrets getting Iron Factory's version of Warpath. So, with that said, now that we've seen robot modes, I'll try and get these guys all transformed into their alt modes for you really fast, and this is the risk I take every time I live stream a video, is everyone losing interest in the video when I try to transform the toys and I mess it up. The main reason I live stream my videos instead of recording videos then uploading a file of them on YouTube later is because I have a slow internet, and a video that only lasts 1 minute, it takes roughly an hour for my internet connection to get it uploaded on YouTube, so I use live streaming as a time saver. So here's Movieverse Warpath in his alt mode of an all-terrain vehicle. As I said, this version of Warpath, it is a straight-up repaint of Transformers Cybertron Overhaul, but one thing that Warpath has over Overhaul is that his wheels are painted silver, and on every other version of this toy mold, the wheels are just unpainted plastic, so that's one up that Warpath has over other uses of the mold. Now, it's been a long time since I've transformed Generations Warpath, so unfortunately a lot of his joints have stiffened out, even though he's only an 8-year-old Transformers toy, and getting him to transform properly, even when you know what you're doing, it can be somewhat of a challenge. But in my opinion, I rather enjoy Generations Warpath's transformation scheme. As I said, it's been a while since I transformed him, so I forgot that you have to fold his arms upward like that you don't just fold back his hands. And Warpath is wanting to be difficult with me. Let me know if you've had that problem when doing a video review on your Transformers toys, if they haven't wanted to transform properly when you're filming them on camera. Yet at the same time, when you don't have a camera, you're just playing with the toy by itself, it transforms perfectly. There. So there is Generations Deluxe Warpath in his alt mode of a tank, and his two weapons on top of the tank turret, a four-barrel missile launcher and a primary missile launcher. There are different angles you can convert them. A lot of Transformers fans flip both of them down to the sides of the tank turret to give Warpath a more flatter appearance. And many Transformers fans I saw back in 2011 when Warpath was first released, they chopped off the back of his missile so that it would not be sticking out in the back. But to be honest, I can see why the missile was made that length, child safety and such. A shorter missile shoot faster, and shoot a missile in your eyeball, you got a lot of pain, and Hasbro does not want to have any lawsuits, so that's that reason. So as I said, Combiner Wars Warpath. He is my least favorite Warpath toy that I personally own. Oh, and I do get slightly more enjoyment with the movieverse version of Warpath than Combiner Wars Warpath. I honestly feel that if Hasbro had at least retooled the arms, because like when you look here, you're the robot mode chest and the arms, it ends up swiveling around on a swivel joint, right, so that the tank turret actually works in vehicle mode. So if Hasbro had replaced this with new molding and not just the robot mode head, I think Combiner Wars Warpath would have been a great Transformers toy, and Transformers fans who were like me, who went OCD about his robot mode looking like an all red version of Megatron, they wouldn't have had to go out and buy a third party company version of Warpath. So, as you've probably guessed by now, Iron Factory's version of Warpath is slightly more complex to transform. But one nice thing about Iron Factory's version of Warpath is that all his weapons, his backpack missiles, and also right here, his laser gun, you take them apart and they all transform into parts of his vehicle mode. So Iron Factory, it looks as though they took a page from Transformers toys that Hasbro had released in the past, where the weapons used to store and become part of the alt mode. One nice thing about Iron Factory's version of Warpath, though, is that the transformation is somewhat similar to the Generations version of Warpath. There may be one or two additional parts you have to move around, but transformation is fairly similar. The only gripe I have with Warpath is that this panel that hides his robot mode head in tank mode, it tends to pop off easily. Bringing the arms down. The most difficult part of Iron Factory's version of Warpath is right here. The back pieces of the tank treads, they end up folding up inside the foot to give him more stable heel spurs, whereas on getting them flipped back out can be a pain. I apologize for taking Warpath off camera, but it is easier for me to transform him this way. Alright, well, unfortunately, Iron Factory's version of Warpath, he isn't willing to transform into his alt mode correctly, and I apologize for taking so long trying to get it done. Let's see, could that be it? Let me see. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, I apologize for this long moment of silence. I did my best to memorize the transformation before I started filming the video, but it didn't quite work out as well as I had hoped. Okay, there we go. Okay. Oh yeah, that's how it went. You had to fold that in and sandwich that in. Alright, so again, I apologize for not having Iron Factory's version of Warpath transformed correctly during the video. Maybe I'll do an updated review where I show how to transform him correctly, but yeah, all in all, Warpath, he is a great character, and all these toys are pretty great. When you do get to transform Iron Factory's version of Warpath correctly, it does look very impressive, as if it does look more compact than it probably would have normally been. But to be honest, I feel that Iron Factory managed to successfully design a decent toy of Warpath, more so than what Hasbro officially did. It is a little fiddly, but not being able to show it off, that's my own fault, not Iron Factory's. They do get some thorough instructions. But yeah. So yeah, do I recommend getting all these toys of Warpath? Absolutely. Do I recommend getting Iron Factory's version of Warpath? Only if you feel the Combiner's version of Warpath isn't too great, and if you don't have the Generations version, but to be honest, out of all four of these Warpath toys, the Generations Deluxe Class version is the one that I recommend getting. And then Iron Factory's Warpath is a close second, and then Combiner's Warpath and the Movieverse version of Warpath. They're okay toys, but yeah, Generations Warpath is the one I absolutely recommend having, so I apologize for that moment in the video being long and silent. Please feel free to fast forward in future, and thank you so much for watching. This has been the TFND. Please like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.